Hey guys, today we are going to discuss angle relationships and how we can use them to solve equations. So first off, we need to name the relationship for these four types of angles. They're either complementary, a linear pair, vertical, or adjacent. Well, first we kind of need to know what these words mean. So complementary means that our angles, when we add them together, would equal 90 degrees. Linear pair means they are adjacent on the same line. And when they're a linear pair, they're essentially supplementary. They equal 180 degrees. The only difference between linear pair and supplementary is the part where they are adjacent on the same line. So we gotta also remember a linear pair, they add up to 180 degrees, since a straight angle, which is the line they are on, is also 180 degrees. Vertical, these angles are going to be congruent, and they sort of make an X shape. They're always across from each other on X, and adjacent, which we kind of used the word before, but if we weren't familiar, just means that they are sharing a side. They are literally touching each other. They share a side. So when they tell us to name a relationship, they want the most specific relationship we can get, because sometimes more than one relationship could exist. For example, you could be adjacent and complementary. And if that's the case, in this video we'll do both, but in the future they do want the most specific. So looking at number one, we're looking at angles A and B. Well, those two angles share the same vertex, and if we look, they kind of form that X that we were talking about earlier. When they form that X and they're across each other on that X, that means they're vertical angles and they are congruent. So these guys here are vertical. Going on to number two, right away, I see this box. Now we know that box means it's a right angle, so it's 90 degrees. So right away, I know I have two angles that completely make up this 90 degrees. So that means I know these two angles have to be complementary. Now they also share a side right in between them. So we would say that they are also adjacent. All right, number three. I have two angles, and just like earlier, they share a side. So we know they're adjacent, but they also are on the same line. So that makes them a linear pair. Now we don't write linear pair and adjacent because you have to be adjacent to be a linear pair. So it's a bit redundant. So we would just say linear pair, and that automatically tells whoever we're talking to that they are supplementary and adjacent, meaning they're on one line touching. Now here in number four, I see that they share a side, and they're kind of on the same line, but they don't go through the entire line. We also don't have a box, so there's no right angle. It's not making an X, so it's not vertical. So the only really specific thing we know is that they're touching or they share a side, meaning adjacent is about as specific as we can get. Now, we don't just do this to name angles and to have fun with, describing their relationships. We do this because through their relationships, we can solve more advanced problems. So let's take a look at this guy number here, or right here. They want us to find the value of X. Now, to be able to set up an equation to find X, we need to first find the relationship between the two angles we were given. So in this picture, we were given 2x plus 17 and 117. Now right away, I can see they are adjacent, right? The two angles are touching each other, but they're also on the same line. And they make up the entire line. Unlike, for example, number four, where we didn't really go all the way. So we can't count that as, the full line. But here, we went through the entire line. There's no other angle being made. So this tells me that these guys form a linear pair. And we said earlier, a linear pair is just a bunch of supplementary angles. So I can add these two together and equal them to 180. So we have 2x plus 17 plus 117 equals 180. And that is how we would use these relationships to set up our equation. So let's solve for x. I'm gonna put that line down the middle. Step 1 is always combine like terms. So we got a 17 and a 117, so we're gonna add them together. And we get 2x plus 134. Next, we want x alone, so we're gonna have to get rid of that 134 by subtracting it from both sides. And that leaves us with a 2x on the left side and a 46 on the right side. Now lastly, to get x alone, I need to divide 2 from both sides. And we are left with x being equal to 23. And that is how we use angle relationships to be able to solve equations.